By the time you arrive, the day has already loosened its hold on the city, like a hand slowly relaxing its fingers. The streets outside are no longer loud, only murmuring to themselves, the clatter of carts now rare, the calls of vendors already faded into memory. The air beyond the bathhouse walls is cooling, touched with dust and smoke and the faint tang of the Tiber, but as you step closer, as you come into the shadow of this great block of stone and marble, something shifts around you. The world begins to feel padded, quieter, as if the building itself is wrapped in a layer of soft cloth that muffles the sounds of Rome. You stand for a moment by the entrance, beneath heavy timber and carved stone, feeling the weight of the doors, feeling the coolness of the threshold under your feet. Above you, metal fittings glint in the last light, faint traces of color still cling to the carved figures along the lintel, worn by years, but still watching. The air seeps out from the gaps around the doors, warmer than the evening outside, carrying with it a breath of water and oil and stone. It brushes your face like the exhale of some calm, sleeping creature. When you finally step inside, the sound of the city falls away with almost surprising ease. The closing of the door behind you is less like a slam and more like a deep, soft punctuation, a long sentence ending in a gentle period. The wood and bronze meet the frame with a low, resonant thud that seems to sink into the walls. The echo travels up into the vault above you and then dissolves, leaving behind a hush that feels thick and kind and deliberate. You pause just within the vestibule, allowing your eyes to adjust. Here, the light is no longer the harsh brightness of the afternoon or even the blue-gray of dusk. Instead, the space is lit by oil lamps resting in recessed niches, their flames small and steady, each one surrounded by its own little halo of golden light. The walls and floor gather that light and soften it, turning the stone into something warm and almost velvety to the eye. Shadows cling to corners and arches, but their edges are blurred, nothing is sharp, nothing is sudden. You take a slow breath, and with it come layers of scent. There is the mineral smell of stone that has held warmth all day. There is the faint bitterness of olive oil that has been used and wiped away. There is the ghost of perfumes and unguents that earlier clung to people's skin, hints of myrrh, laurel, rosemary, smoke. Underneath it all is the clean, simple smell of water, running and pooled, steam that rose and cooled and settled again. It feels as if you are inhaling the whole day's history in one slow breath, and then letting it go. Ahead of you, an attendant is finishing his work in the entrance hall. He moves with the unhurried ease of someone who has repeated these motions 1,000 times. He straightens a mat that has been pushed askew, brushes a little dust from a stone step with the edge of his sandal, nudges a clay jar back into its usual place beside a column. His lamp hangs from his hand, swinging in a small arc with each step, making the shadows sway gently along the wall. He glances at you without surprise, merely acknowledging your presence with a slight nod. At this hour, no one new is expected, but neither are you unwelcome. You are simply a quiet figure entering a place that is already turning toward rest. There is no bustle now, no shouted greetings, no clashing of voices. Only the soft scuff of his feet on the floor, the faint liquid sound of oil moving in the lamp, and your own breath easing out as your shoulders let go of a little of the day's weight. You move deeper into the building, into the apoditerium, the changing room that earlier would have been full of bodies and voices and rustling cloth. Now the room feels like an emptied shell, still warm from what it has contained. Rows of wooden benches run along the walls, their surfaces polished by the constant friction of legs and hands. Above them, niches are carved into the plaster, small compartments where tunics and cloaks would have hung, sandals stacked, belts curled and set aside. Most of them are empty now. Their hollows dark. A few still hold forgotten things, a single sandal with a worn leather strap, a neatly folded strip of cloth that someone meant to take and somehow did not, a small wooden hairpin resting where it was tucked and overlooked. You walk along the benches slowly, fingertips brushing the wood. The surface is smooth in some places, slightly rough in others where grain has lifted or where a small crack has formed. You can feel the tiny dips and grooves made by years of hands reaching for shoes, elbows leaning, backs resting. Each imperfection is a record of someone's gesture, their fleeting presence in this room. The air here is softer and drier than in the bathing halls, touched by the faint sense of skin and linen and a little trace of sweat, but all of it mellowed, settled into the stone. Somewhere, perhaps in a side niche, there is a storage chest where valuables were once kept. It sits closed now, its metal fittings dull in the lamplight. A narrow window high up near the ceiling lets in a sliver of the evening sky, just enough to paint a pale line along the top of the opposite wall. At the far end of the room, another attendant is gathering the last of the stray items. You see him stoop to pick up a bronze strigil, the curved scraper lightly stained with a film of oil and dust from the day's use. He wipes it with a cloth, moving carefully along the curve, then places it in a small wooden basket with others. The faint clink of metal on metal is oddly soothing, like a tiny bell half heard through a wall. You sit for a moment, not to undress but simply to feel the bench beneath you, to let your body absorb the quiet. The wood is cooler than the air, but not cold. It has taken on enough of the room's warmth to feel welcoming. You rest your hands by your sides, feel your shoulders sink down a little, feel the line of your back soften. Silence here is not empty. You can almost hear the absence of the daytime noises, no coins being counted, no disputes about misplaced garments, no laughter echoing off the tiles. All of that has drained away, leaving a calm, clear pool of quiet in its place. When you rise again, you pass through an arched opening toward the inner halls, and the sound of water grows more distinct. At first it is only a suggestion, a gentle hush at the edge of hearing, but with each step it becomes clearer, the small continuous murmur of fountains, the soft, occasional drip of condensation from high ceilings to floor, the muted splash of water being poured out somewhere in a side room. You emerge into the tepidarium, the warm room that sits between extremes, and the air enfolds you in a tender embrace. The temperature here is perfectly balanced, not hot, not cool, just quietly, generously warm, like the sensation of being wrapped in a blanket that has been hanging by a fire for some time. The room is generous in size, with a vaulted ceiling that curves above you like the inside of a shell. Lamps are spaced along the walls in deep niches, their flames steady and low, casting long, gentle reflections across the surface of the central pool. The water itself is very still, a shallow basin of warmth at the heart of the space, edged with marble whose surface gleams where the light reaches it and fades to soft shadow where it does not. Mosaics cover the floor, tiny tesserae forming patterns of waves and leaves and perhaps small sea creatures. In the daytime their colors would be bright and distinct, now they are muted, their blues and greens and reds reduced to a few toned-down shades, like memories of color rather than the thing itself. As you step forward, your bare feet make soft contact with the stone, the slight grip of the grout lines, the smoothness of the polished sections, the faint coolness where water has evaporated more quickly. You go to the edge of the pool and sit down, letting your legs dangle over the side. The marble lip is gently warm, its surface worn smooth by countless bodies that have rested here before you. When you lower your feet, the water greets your skin with a tender, embracing heat, neither surprising nor intense, but pleasantly present, like a hand laid lightly on your ankle. As you move your feet slowly, the water responds with tiny ripples that travel outward in concentric rings, disturbing the reflections of the lamps. The golden smears of their light stretch and bend, then slowly return to stillness. You watch this small dance of light and water for a while, noticing how even the tiniest motion echoes through the whole surface. The air smells of damp stone and fading steam, with a gentle hint of oil and herbs that lingers from the day, laurel, maybe, and a little rosemary, softened now into the general warmth. You draw in another long breath, feeling the moisture in the air as it touches the back of your throat, soothing and easy. Somewhere behind you, an attendant carries a shallow bucket and pours its contents carefully along the edge of the floor, coaxing loose any lingering dirt. The thin layer of water he leaves behind catches the lamplight and makes the mosaic shimmer where he passes. You can hear the soft scrape of his brush, the whisper of bristles across stone. His footsteps are almost silent, the sound of skin on tile barely audible, but you can feel his presence as part of the room's slow, methodical winding down. He moves in no hurry at all, stopping now and then to straighten a folded cloth, to adjust the tilt of a lamp so that its light falls more kindly on the wall. Each small gesture adds to the sense that this place is being carefully prepared for sleep, as someone might smooth the coverlet and adjust the pillows before lying down. After some time, you stand and walk along the edge of the pool, your hand gliding over the rim of the marble. The stone is warmer where it has held water, cooler where it rises above. You feel the tiny irregularities in its surface, faint chips and scratches that speak of many days like this one. The lamps flicker gently as you pass, their flames bending very slightly in the current of air your body creates. Light follows you along the wall, sliding over your shoulder, over the curve of your neck, across your arm. A doorway at the far end of the tepidarium leads toward the hotter heart of the complex, the caldarium. As you step into the corridor, the air thickens almost at once. It becomes denser, carrying with it more steam, more of that damp heat that penetrates muscles and loosens joints. The passageway is narrower here, the lamps are spaced farther apart, so that you walk through alternating pockets of gold and shade. Your skin begins to bead with moisture even before you reach the next room. By the time you cross the threshold, the caldarium takes you fully into itself, wrapping you in an embrace of heat. Inside, the world is softer and hazier. Steam drifts through the air in light veils, making every lamp seem to glow from within a golden cloud. The marble benches along the walls are slick with moisture, their surfaces shining. The floor beneath your feet radiates warmth from the hypocaust beneath, a steady, upward heat that flows into your arches, your ankles, your calves. Each step presses that warmth deeper. In the center of the room, the hot pool waits, its surface clouded with rising vapor. The water is darker here, its depth concealed by the gentle swirl of steam, but where a droplet falls from the ceiling, the surface dimples and then smooths again. Condensation gathers above, forming tiny beads along the curve of the dome, catching bits of lamplight so that the ceiling looks lightly dusted with stars. You move to one of the lower benches and sit down, feeling the heat come into you through the stone. At first it is only a gentle, surface sensation, then, slowly, it begins to sink deeper, into the muscles along your back, into your thighs, into your shoulders. Your skin glows with it, tiny droplets forming and sliding along the line of your spine, the hollows of your collarbones, the bend of your elbows. You close your eyes for a while and simply listen. The caldarium has its own unique sound, the soft hiss of steam escaping from some hidden crack, the occasional quiet splash of water as it spills over an edge, the faint, regular tapping of a droplet falling from above into the pool. There may be a distant murmur from the furnace below. A low, steady sigh of the fire that has been working all day. Together, these sounds form a kind of slow, arrhythmic music, soothing and continuous. When you open your eyes again, you notice more details that have been blurred before, the way the lamplight glides across the damp marble, the patterns of shadow where the benches meet the floor, the thin path of water trickling along a groove toward a drain. You follow that little stream with your gaze, watching it gather, split, and gather again around tiny imperfections in the stone. On one wall, near an alcove, there is a small shelf with shallow dishes of oil. Their surfaces are gleaming, a thin layer of gold catching the light from a nearby lamp. These oils were used earlier for massage and scraping, rubbed into shoulders and backs and arms. Now, with the day almost over, their scents are more subdued, no longer sharp, only a soft echo. The attendant who passed through here before has already stopped up some of them, but a few remain uncovered, their fragrance drifting lazily into the steam. You might imagine, for a moment, the people who sat where you are sitting now, earlier in the day, a trader with dust still on his sandals from the road, a retired soldier with scars along his arms, a young clerk with ink stains at the tips of his fingers. They leaned back against this same marble, closed their eyes against this same heat, listened to this same quiet interplay of water and stone, letting the weight of their own worries loosen and slip away for a while. Their voices, their laughter, their complaints are gone now. But the warmth remains. The stone remembers. When you feel ready, you rise and move a little further, perhaps toward a smaller adjoining room, the laconicum, a dry, even hotter space where the air is thick and still. The temperature here presses closer around you, but you do not need to stay long, just a few breaths in the heavy, dry heat, feeling your pores open, feeling the last of the day's tension lift and leave with the faint sheen of sweat on your skin. Then, when you step back into the caldarium's moist warmth, it feels lighter, gentler, like returning from a brief glance at the heart of a fire to the glow of its edges. Eventually, you turn back toward the corridor, leaving the hot rooms behind. The transition is gradual. At first, the air outside the caldarium feels almost cool against your skin, though anyone from the street would still find it warm. A faint shiver runs along your arms, not unpleasant, just a reminder that your body is alive, adjusting, balancing itself between temperatures. You walk slowly, barefoot on the stone, hearing your own footsteps echo softly along the walls. The lamps in this passageway burn lower now, some have already been extinguished, and in their absence, small pools of shadow have grown, gathering in corners and along the ceiling. You pass through them like a drifting figure in a half-remembered dream, reappearing under the next lamp only to slip into another gentle darkness. The corridor opens once more into the tepidarium. It is like coming back to a familiar room in your own home, the same shape, the same pool, the same benches, but everything has shifted just a little. More lamps have been put out, leaving only a few, and those placed more intentionally. Their glow feels deeper now, their light stretching further to reach the edges of the room. The water in the pool lies even more still, as if the room's quiet has slowly seeped into it and settled there. You walk along one side of the room, and your path takes you near a small side doorway you had not noticed before. Through it, you glimpse another space, a narrow chamber where cloths are rinsed and wrung, where brushes and buckets are stored. Inside, one of the workers is standing with his hands in a basin, methodically washing the last of the oil from a bundle of sponges. The water in his bowl is cloudy, the surface broken in repeated rhythms as he squeezes and releases each sponge. The smell here is slightly different, sharper with soap or ash used for cleaning. You linger only at the threshold, watching the repetitive, almost hypnotic motion of his hands. He does not see you. His focus is on the work, on the feel of the sponges becoming cleaner, on the satisfaction of order slowly returning to shelves and hooks. In its own way, this quiet labor is as soothing as the silence of the empty pools. These small, careful acts are what allow tomorrow's day of bathing and talking and living to unfold without chaos. You move on, leaving him to his rhythm. Beyond the tepidarium, another doorway leads to the frigidarium, the cool room with its wide pool of pale water. You pass under its arch, and at once the air changes. It is not cold in a harsh way, just refreshingly crisp, a clear contrast to the warmth behind you. The sensation on your skin is like stepping into the shade after standing in sunlight, a soft shock that quickly becomes a relief. The Frigidarium's pool stretches out, broad and still, its water so calm that the lamps along the walls appear almost untouched as they reflect on its surface. The stone around it is dry in places, damp in others where drops have fallen and not yet evaporated. Your footsteps sound slightly sharper here, the echo of heel and toes returning to you with a different quality, as if the room's surfaces are more awake. You come to the water's edge and sit again, letting your feet hover above the surface for a moment. The coolness that rises from it brushes your skin. When you finally dip a toe in, the temperature is clear and bright against your warmed flesh. It is not an attack, it is an invitation to awareness, a gentle reminder of the full range of sensation your body can feel. If you choose to slide your feet into the pool, the cool embraces your ankles, your calves, soothing any lingering heat. The contrast between the warmth still held in your core and the cool of the water at your extremities is oddly calming. It anchors you firmly in your body, in this moment, in this room. There is nowhere else you need to be. Nothing else you need to do. The air in the Frigidarium carries fewer scents. Without the heavy steam, the smell of stone is clearer, more defined, slightly sharp, slightly metallic, like wet marble after a rain. You might notice the faintest trace of the cleaning substances used earlier, a whisper of something alkaline that has long since faded into harmlessness. Above you, the ceiling rises, and high up there is a window or oculus where a streak of night sky shows. A single star, perhaps two, can be seen from where you sit, peering down like distant, patient eyes. Along one wall stands a statue, its marble surface gleaming pale in the dim light. It might be a representation of a river god, reclining with one arm propped on a vessel from which water once seemed to flow, or a figure of a hero, standing with calm poise. In this reduced light, all sharp details are softened. The nose, the lips, the folds of drapery, each is present but gentled, given over to shadow and suggestion. The statue's presence adds a sense of being accompanied in your quiet, but the companionship is wordless, restful. After some unhurried time in the coolness, you stand and wander along the perimeter of the room. Your hand trails over the low balustrade that separates walking space from water. Every few steps, your fingers find a slightly different temperature in the stone, a different texture where the surface has been worn or left untouched. The lamps are sparser here, between them, the darkness is more complete, but you move without fear. The bathhouse at this hour holds no menace, only rest. A side doorway leads out of the Frigidarium and into a small, well-ventilated chamber. Here, the latrines are arranged in neat rows along the walls, carved seats above channels where water runs continuously, carrying everything away. Even this space, practical and unglamorous, has its own quiet order. The constant, low murmur of flowing water is surprisingly soothing, a soft, continuous sound that seems to rinse not only the stone, but the day itself. The air is fresher here than you might expect, moving in gentle currents that keep anything unpleasant at bay. You do not need to linger, you simply note that even here, care has been taken to make the necessary aspects of life part of a graceful system. Nothing is abrupt, nothing is neglected. Water moves, stone drains, time passes, and all of it fits into the great slow breathing of the building. You step back into the corridor, leaving the murmur of the channels behind you. As the night deepens further, your wandering takes you toward another part of the complex, the palestra, the open courtyard where, earlier, people exercised and practiced, their bodies active before the cleansing baths. Now, passing through the doorway that leads there, you enter a different kind of quiet. The sky opens above you, framed by colonnades on all sides. The stones underfoot here are cooler, having released the day's heat into the air. A few torches or lamps remain lit along the covered walkways, but most have been extinguished, so that the center of the court lies in a soft darkness. You can see the outline of the training field, the faint suggestion of lines in the sand where feet and hands worked hours before. The air carries new scents, the faint green smell of plants growing in pots along the colonnade, the dry dust of sand, the coolness of night. Somewhere beyond the walls of the bathhouse, a dog barks once and is quiet. The rustle of a breeze passes through the courtyard, touching the leaves and making them whisper. You walk slowly along the colonnade, your hand lightly brushing the fluted columns as you go. Their surfaces are cool and faintly grainy, the carved lines a soft pattern beneath your fingertips. Between the columns, the open sky shows in long, dark rectangles, sprinkled with stars that seem to shimmer more clearly here, away from the torches of the streets. At one corner of the courtyard, tucked into a niche, is a small shrine. You saw something similar earlier, but here, under the open sky, it feels slightly different. A clay lamp burns on the stone ledge, its flame small and bright. Beside it rest a few simple offerings, perhaps a small wreath of leaves that is already drying, a piece of bread, a smear of wine that has darkened into a stain. The carved figure above them is lit from below, its features softened and made mysterious by the upward light. You stand in front of this shrine for a time, saying nothing. The gods who watch over such places are used to unspoken prayers. It is enough to let your mind quiet, to let your wishes, fears, hopes settle like fine dust on the stone before them. Maybe you think of your own body, grateful for its strength and endurance. Maybe you think of the people you care for, scattered across the city or farther away, and imagine this same gentle night covering them as well. The lamp flickers once, then returns to its steady flame, undisturbed. Eventually, you turn away and follow another passage that leads inward and downward, toward the unseen heart of the building. Steps take you beneath the main floors, where the hypocaust's underworld spreads out in a maze of low arches and brick pillars. You do not go too far. This is a world for workers and engineers, a place of soot and brick dust and glowing coals. But even a short descent lets you feel the difference. The air is heavier here, tinged with smoke and the warm, earthy smell of brick that has been heated and cooled many times. You may see, through a doorway, the faint red-orange glow of a banked fire, its flames no longer leaping as they did in the height of day, but resting, settled into embers that will smolder through the night. A worker moves in that glow, his figure dark against it, using a long tool to arrange the coals, to pull out ash, to make sure everything is safe before he leaves. You hear the muted clank of metal on stone, the soft rush of air as the fire takes one last deep breath and then relaxes. The worker's hands are darkened by soot, but his movements are careful and calm. He has done this so many times that his body knows the sequence better than his mind. When he is done, he steps back, wipes his forearms with a cloth, gives the furnace a brief, almost affectionate look. Then he, too, will climb the steps, feel the cooler air on his face, and leave the building to its rest. You ascend before him, returning to the upper corridors. As you climb, you can feel the change in temperature under your feet. The steps gradually cooling, the air losing its smoky density and becoming clear again. By the time you reach the familiar level of the main halls, it is as if that deeper, hotter world is already beginning to slip into dream. Once more, your wandering brings you back to the tepidarium. It is as if every path ultimately circles toward this center, this balancing point. Each time you return, the room seems more peaceful. Now, only a single lamp burns near the door, and another in the wall niche above the pool. Their light is hushed, low, painting long, soft shadows that almost seem to rock back and forth on the walls. The water in the pool lies completely still, its surface like glass, reflecting the ceiling's curve and the lamp's tiny flame. The mosaics under the water appear blurred and distant, as if seen through a veil. The air is still pleasantly warm, but the intensity has left it. It feels like the lingering warmth in a bed long after someone has risen. You choose a bench along the wall and lie down, placing something folded beneath your head, a towel, perhaps, or a cloak. The stone beneath your back is firm and unwavering, its solidity soothing. It gives the sense that you are resting on something that will not shift or crumble, something that has held many bodies and will hold many more. Its warmth seeps slowly through the cloth into your skin, spreading along your spine, across your shoulders, down your arms and legs. Your hands rest at your sides, palms open, fingers loose. Your feet fall out slightly, the muscles in your legs releasing. The line of your jaw softens, your forehead smooths. You let your eyes remain half open for a time, watching the lamplight flicker on the ceiling, the gentle, unpredictable ways it moves as the tiny flame dances within its clay container. The pattern is never exactly the same, but always slow, always quiet. As you lie there, the sounds of the bathhouse shrink even further. The occasional drip of water in a distant room. The faint creak of a cooling pipe or beam settling into its nighttime position. Perhaps, very far off, the muffled sound of a door, and then nothing. The workers have left, the building is closed. But you feel no urge to go. The bathhouse seems to accept you as another element of its quiet, a warm, breathing presence settling onto its stone like a final, gentle weight. Your awareness begins to shift inward. The room is still there, the pool, the bench, the lamps, the curving ceiling. But your focus moves away from them, into the simple, continuous rhythm of your breath. You notice how the air feels as it comes in, slightly cooler at the nostrils, smoothly flowing down into your chest, where it meets the warmth that the baths have given you. Then the exhale, a little warmer, a little softer, slipping out and disappearing into the room's calm. In your chest, your heartbeat has slowed. It taps gently against your ribs, steady and calm. Each beat seems to echo, very faintly, through your limbs, like a small, repeated wave. Your body feels heavier now, as if gravity has increased just a little, or as if the stone beneath you has become faintly magnetic, drawing you closer, asking you to rest more fully. Thoughts still arise, but they do so gently, in slow motion. A memory from earlier in the day floats up, some conversation, some small concern, and instead of gripping it, you watch it drift through your mind the way steam drifts through lamplight. It appears, glows faintly for a moment, then thins and disappears. Another thought follows, perhaps an image of the city outside, the street where you live, the sound of a neighbor's voice. That, too, glides across the surface of your awareness and then sinks away, leaving no ripples. You become increasingly aware of the spaces between thoughts. At first they are brief, a second or two where you realize that you are not thinking about anything in particular, just feeling the warmth of the stone, hearing the faint drip of water, watching the light. Then those spaces grow longer. In them, there is no story you are telling yourself, no problem to solve, no past or future to consider. There is only this, your body, the bench, the room. The gentle darkness. If you open your eyes now, you see very little. The lamp's flame may be no more than a small, blurry glow. The edges of the room have melted into shadow, the pool is an absence of light rather than a visible shape. The ceiling is only a suggestion overhead, more felt than seen. It would be difficult to say where the walls end and the darkness begins. If you close them again, the interior of your mind is no more distinct. Colors fade to deep, comforting shades. Forms loosen at the edges and become soft, then softer, until they are nothing but a background tone. You might still catch a stray fragment of imagery here and there, a flash of mosaic, the curve of a column, the sheen of water, but these come without weight, without insistence. They are like the last whispers of a conversation overheard in another room, already slipping away. Outside the bathhouse, the city continues to exist, soldiers on night watch, bakers rising early to light their ovens, a cart rolling past on uneven cobbles, a lamp being filled in a small private room. But all of that is distant, separated from you by layers of stone and air and darkness. The empire and its cares are far away. Here, in this warm, dim, breathing building, there is only rest. The bathhouse itself seems to sleep. The fires have been banked. The waters have gone still. The marble has released most of its heat, keeping just enough to make the benches softly welcoming. The lamps have burned down, their oil slowly disappearing. Yet there is still a sense of presence in the walls, a quiet awareness that what it holds now is not activity, but a different kind of life, the deep, slow life of rest. Your breath flows, measured and even. In. Out. In. Out. The rhythm matches the hush of distant water, the faint settling creaks of stone, the almost inaudible pulse of your own heart. Time stretches, loses its edges, becomes a gentle, continuous thing with no clear beginning or end. You lie there, cradled by warm stone and surrounded by ancient walls. The air is safe, the darkness kind, the silence full rather than empty. If you shift at all, it is only to sink a little deeper into your makeshift pillow, to let your shoulders relax a fraction more, to let your hands fall even looser at your sides. And in this quiet Roman night, deep inside the bathhouse after closing, with marble beneath you and fading steam in the air, with oil lamps burning low and the waters resting still in their pools, you are held gently between waking and sleep. The world outside goes on, but here, wrapped in warmth and shadow and soft echoes, you are free to let go. Your thoughts thin like steam rising into the vault above you. Your breath flows like water along a smooth stone channel. The last flicker of lamplight trembles softly on the wall and then steadies. You drift, and drift, and drift, carried on the slow, ancient calm of this place, sinking down into a deep, quiet rest, as the great bathhouse of the empire keeps its warm, protective watch around you through the night.